If you want something done, then do it yourself. Just take your up and atom down off the shelf. Put your muzzle to the grindstone and do it yourself. If you want something done, hop it up, hop it up, hop it up. You've got to do it yourself.
Hi, this is Jareeve with another installment of The Best Picture Show. Here we are in the year 2007. For the Academy Awards this year, two similar films were head-to-head. Joel and Ethan Coen's No Country for Old Men matched up with Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood, as both were nominated for 8 awards. The Coens emerged victorious with 4 wins, including the big one, Best Directors and Adapted Screenplay, and Javier Bardem snagged Best Supporting Actor. There Will Be Blood won 2, including Best Actor for Daniel Day-Lewis and Best Cinematography. Marion Cotillard won Best Actress for La Vie en Rose, and Tilda Swinton won for Michael Clayton. Also, a shout out to The Bourne Ultimatum for winning 3 technical awards for sound editing and mixing and film editing. Some major films from 2007 include 300, Across the Universe, American Gangster, The Assassination of Jesse James, Beowulf, Bridge to Terabithia, Charlie Wilson's War, Dan in Real Life, Disturbia, Enchanted, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, Freedom Riders, Hairspray, Harry Potter 5, I Am Legend, I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, I'm Not There, In the Valley of Elah, Knocked Up, Lars and the Real Girl, National Treasure 2, Norbit, The Number 23, Pirates of the Caribbean, At World's End, Shooter, The Simpsons Movie, Spider-Man 3, Superbad, Sweeney Todd, Transformers, Walk Hard, and Wild Hogs. With all that out of the way, let's review some nominees. The first nominee for 2007 is Atonement, directed by Joe Wright and starring Keira Knightley, James McAvoy, and a young Saoirse Ronan. The film tells the story of a young girl, primarily played by Ronan, and the lives of her sister and her sister's lover forever changed by one event. I'll say it, it's not as cliche or baity as you think. I was pleasantly surprised by how little formulaic it was compared to what it could have been, although it wasn't free of conventional storytelling. On a technical level, it was quite good. Nothing super exceptional save the fantastic cinematography. There is one great sequence where McAvoy's character walks around the beaches near Dunkirk. The camera weaves around many different aspects of the huge retreat where the British and French soldiers await their rescue. The cast is good, but I don't understand Ronan's supporting actress nomination. She is by no means bad, but doesn't do much in her performance or the story, even though she is the main character and cause for the plot progression. Before the halfway mark of the movie, she's replaced by an older actress and she leaves little impression on the character. The story itself is really interesting because instead of taking the cliche route of focusing on a love story, it expands into a war epic, and I would discuss the post-war part of the story as a negative aspect. But the way the film ends changes the whole perspective of that section. I won't spoil it because I think it is worth watching. If there's anything negative, some of the dialogue between characters is awkward. There are scenes where it's supposed to be just random banter, but it feels like the actors are recalling the script line by line. It didn't feel authentic, something the film tries so hard to capture, but a well worth watch. 8 out of 10. Okay, I know there are a sizable amount of people that really like Juno. I don't. That doesn't mean it's bad at all. There are good things. Juno is directed by Jason Reitman, written by Diablo Cody, and stars Ellen Page, Michael Cera, Jennifer Garner, and Jason Bateman. The story is about the titular teenager that accidentally gets pregnant and decides to give the baby up for adoption to a young married couple. The reason I mentioned screenwriter Diablo Cody is because she won the Oscar for original screenplay, and this movie has its own weird hipster jargon. Some of the phrases and odd word choices from Juno herself are pivotal to the character because it paints her as different. But it's also the most infuriatingly annoying aspects of this film. Now yes, as the film progresses, she speaks much more normally, but for the first half, it's insufferable. Original, yes, but originality does not guarantee quality. There are situations where she'll mouth off to someone, usually an adult, and it feels so dumb. Even if there is someone like this, why are we getting the punk talk during a serious conversation? It's distracting and degrading. I don't care if it's part of the character, because I don't think people act like this 24/7. Plus, Ellen Page's performance is overrated. She's not bad, and does a decent job at developing Juno. Yet, I don't feel this is a fantastic character and performance everyone talks about. It's just good. The supporting cast is quite good. I especially enjoyed watching J.K. Simmons as Juno's father. Jason Bateman, though, was clunky and awkward in a bad way and didn't size up to the rest of the cast. On a positive note, the film does tell a good story. It has a few bumps in the road, but the ending is nice and enjoyable, and there is some emotional connection to the characters. There are a few scenes near the end with Paige and Cera that feel authentic. Overall, a film with some good storytelling, but ultimately is just okay. 6 out of 10.
Well, well, if it isn't McGuff the crime dog. Back for another test?
I think the first one was defective. The plus sign looks more like a division symbol, so I remain unconvinced.
Third test today, Mama Bear. Your ego is prego. No doubt about it.
It's really easy to tell. Is your nipples real brown?
Yeah, maybe your little boyfriend's got mutant sperms, knocked you up twice.
Silencio, old man. Look, I just drank my weight in Sunny D, and I gotta go pronto.
Well, you know where the lavatory is. You pay for that pee stick when you're done.
How do I talk about Michael Clayton? As a slow thriller? As a business film? As a character study? Or is it all three at once? I would say yes, although the film might not know what it is. Directed by Tony Gilroy and starring George Clooney, Tom Wilkinson, and Tilda Swinton, the film tells the story of the titular character, a law firm fixer, trying to deal with a lawyer after a nervous breakdown during a major case. Clooney and Wilkinson are fantastic and deserve their nominations. As for Tilda Swinton, why was she nominated and how did she win? She's barely in the film, does nearly nothing for the plot, and also leaves no impression whatsoever. The only thing I can remember from her character off the top of my head was her staring at Clooney in the final scene. And it wasn't a feat of physical acting. She basically stared at everyone all 6 seconds of her performance. And the plot of the film is really confusing. Not that law films are supposed to be simple, but most of the film I was trying to understand how everything was working out. Maybe that's saying something about reality, and I can see that. But it makes a murky film that, by the end, doesn't leave any kind of mark. As for closure, the ending credits are a great way to finish off the story. But does one scene make up for the rest of the movie? Not a bad film at all. It has some good scenes, and again, the lead actors are great. Good, but overrated. A generous 7 out of 10.
2 weeks ago, I came out of the building, okay? I'm running across 6th Avenue. There's a car waiting. I got exactly 38 minutes to get to the airport, and I'm dictating. There's this panicked associate sprinting along beside me, scribbling in a notepad, and suddenly she starts screaming, and I realize we're standing in the middle of the street, the lights change, and there's this wall of traffic, serious traffic speeding towards us, and I freeze. I can't move. And I'm suddenly consumed with the overwhelming sensation that I'm covered with some sort of film. And it's in my hair, my face, and it's like a glaze, like a coating. And at first I thought, oh my God, I know what this is. This is some sort of amniotic embryonic fluid. I'm drenched in afterbirth. I've breached the chrysalis. I've been reborn. But then the traffic, the stampede, the cars, the trucks, the horns, boom, is screaming, and I'm thinking, no, reset. This is not rebirth. This is some kind of giddy illusion of renewal that happens in the final moment before death. And then
I drink your milkshake. Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood is one of my personal favorites. The film mainly stars Daniel Day-Lewis and Paul Dano and is about the oil boom at the turn of the 20th century in America and the influential people involved. Everything about it is great. The cinematography is gritty and captures the rugged look of 1900s America. The score by Johnny Greenwood is eerie, edgy, and original, and was snubbed of a nomination. The supporting cast is excellent without any weak characters or acting, and Paul Dano was snubbed for a Best Supporting Actor nomination. The screenplay perfectly captures the time period and gives Daniel Day-Lewis superb material. And yes, Daniel Day-Lewis is fantastic. This is one of, if not the best performances I have ever seen. Everything he does from physical acting to swindling monologues to enraged screaming speaks character. And well, yes, he is the film. Everything around him is fantastic. I asked a friend of mine, Magnus Prophecy, to further explain the brilliance of There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood currently stands as my favorite film of all time. I constantly watch films for both my own personal pleasure and for the work that I do on my channel, and if I don't stop myself, I can watch multiple in a day. There Will Be Blood is one of the few films where I have to restrain myself from watching films in the following days after I've viewed it, and this is simply because it takes a lot of strength to watch and fully appreciate. Its subject matter has made it very difficult for general audiences to view, but once you finally watch it with a heavy concentration, you'll understand why it's looked at as one of the major Best Picture nominations of the last decade. Many could easily find that the film exists to solely serve as the canvas for Daniel Day-Lewis's powerful performance, but I find that to be a disservice to the film as it paints one of the only accurate portrayals of how America operates commercially, religiously, and even existentially. The setting has always stood out to me as one of the most unique choices that the director has ever made as far as settings go. The film takes place in an undeveloped California between 1898 and 1927, and the majority of the action takes place in 1911. The early 1910s are rarely visited in fiction, which has always puzzled me, because not only does this period mark the rise of heavy industrialization in the United States, but it's also seen as the death of the mythic American West, a theme that is also touched upon in Rockstar's Red Dead Redemption. To this end, the story operates within multiple genres. It is first and foremost a drama, but it's also a western, a political thriller, and an epic. It should be noted that Paul Thomas Anderson is also my favorite director, the reason being that he can tell both a literal and metaphoric story within an unconventional narrative that can be viewed in multiple contexts. There's something transfixing about Anderson's constant play on the audience's expectations. For example, take the first 20 minutes, chronicling Plainview's meteoric rise from fledgling silver miner to business tycoon. Not only do we never see certain events that could have been turned into movies entirely on their own, but the rising violins accompanying Plainview's growing immoral behavior brings a feeling of absolute dread to the open wastes of an empty California. And then after all this time, we get a monologue unlike any other, accompanied by pure silence. This is just one of the many times that the audience's expectations are built and then immediately broken, and it gives the film an unbelievable edge in its development of both character and story. Even with Day-Lewis's amazing performance, Johnny Greenwood's haunting score, and Robert Elswit's perfectly calculated cinematography, Paul Thomas Anderson is the star of his own movie. It takes a special kind of genius to make you care for and appreciate degenerate scum like Daniel Plainview and Eli Sunday. I could go on and on about how the mechanics of the film perfectly suit the gothic design, and how its formalist methods are disguised by a classicist pastiche, but I don't want Jareeve's video to run on any longer than it already is. This is one of the very best films of not only the last decade, but film history as a whole.
So, I will award There Will Be Blood
a perfect 10 out of 10.
I worked for Geological Survey and went to Kansas. I couldn't stay there. Just couldn't. I don't like to explain myself. Are you an angry man, Henry?
About what?
Are you envious? Do you get envious?
I don't think so, no.
I have a competition in me. I want no one else to succeed. I hate most people.
And the Oscar goes to No Country for Old Men. Scott Rudin, Ethan Coen, and Joel Coen producers.
The Coen brothers finally snagged the big one. Their gritty thriller captures the atmosphere of 1980 and gives us one of the most menacing movie characters of all time, Anton Chigurh. The film stars Tommy Lee Jones, Josh Brolin, Kelly MacDonald, Woody Harrelson, and Javier Bardem as Shigur. The story is about Brolin's character finding leftover money from a drug deal gone bad and decides to take off with it, while being tracked down by Bardem and being watched by Jones, a sheriff trying to save him. I love this film and agree it's award-worthy. But was it the best? The film does many things well, from Roger Deakins' excellent cinematography to the Coen signature direction and screenplay adapted from Cormac McCarthy's novel, and also Javier Bardem's astounding award-winning performance. But are there negative aspects of 2007's Best Picture winner? Because many people compare No Country for Old Men and There Will Be Blood, I have again asked Magnus Prophecy to shed some light on the subject.
No Country for Old Men is certainly a great film, but a lot of people in the film community at large tout that this film is much more grounded and challenging in terms of how it executes upon its narrative. It weaves through multiple character storylines without ever establishing a protagonist, only for the audience to realize by the end that the supposed antagonist is the character that's been given the most depth. At the end of the day, I'd say that this film is intellectually sound while delivering thrills and capitalizing on its raw entertainment value. The performances are all great but never in your face, allowing subtle details in the background of their environments or minute gestures to reveal more about their characters than words ever could. The score is quite literally non-existent, with only 16 minutes being devoted to the soundtrack, many of those minutes contributing to the end credits theme. This creates a silence within the film, a certain hollow emptiness that reflects the themes of destiny and determination invoked by the characters. My biggest problem with No Country for Old Men is its delivery of these themes, as there are times when the film becomes unnecessarily distant from the audience. There are several moments where the dialogue feels straight up lifted from the book and it comes off as cold. The same can be said of some pivotal scenes. When one of the major players dies later in the story, his final scene of dialogue is preceded by an uncharacteristic fade to black, and we do not actually see him dying, whereas the film has been impressively candid in depicting every other character's death. One side effect that I do appreciate from this decision was the amazing amount of ambiguity that comes in the second half that only the Coen brothers could have ever pulled off, and the overall cynical take on the American dream most likely won over the Academy.
Well said. Both are great films, but it's clear which one is better. The Coen's 2007 Oscar winner gets
a very well-deserved 9 out of 10.
You don't have to do this. I'm a day trader. I could just go home.
You're good.
Make it worth your while. Take you to an ATM. There's 14 grand in it. And everybody just walks away.
An ATM?
So yeah, PTA's There Will Be Blood takes the prize for 2007 and is the third entry in the 10 for 10 club thus far. A year that starts at 10 and goes down from there. I swear, it wasn't deliberate. And after agreeing with the Academy for only the second time in 2006, I again do not agree. 2007 was a pretty good year with an average score of 8 out of 10. And the Oscar bait of the year? I think it's Atonement. A good film that does many things well and differently, but alas, a period piece war drama love story that does get off that baity feeling. Some considerations for 2007 are Eastern Promises, Into the Wild, Ratatouille, Zodiac, and The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. Thanks for watching, like and subscribe, and stay tuned for 2008, and after that, the second episode of Snubbed. My videos, as you've seen, are not coming out as often as before, and they have been 2 to 4 weeks in between. I apologize for that. I will do my best to fix that, as I have had a super busy July and August. Oh, and a special thanks to my pal, Magnus Prophecy. Click the link in the description to visit his YouTube channel and subscribe. Thanks, Maggie boy.
You're welcome, comrade. And don't call me that.
Sorry.
At least not in public.